Good morning and welcome back to Morning Express. We are on the newsroom with my panelists this morning, and we want to get into the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit that was held last week. A lot of attention in Washington, D.C. The pictures we'll get to. I remember after this, everyone got to have a picture with the President and the First Lady U.S. and this was a front page picture on all the dailies. And it was interesting that even across other countries, that was the picture that was on. I'd want to hear your thoughts on that. But in as far as this summit is concerned, Joe, it's coming at a time when after Barack Obama was elected president, when he came to Africa, he was talking about democracy and how we need to focus on institutions and good leadership. This time around, we didn't hear much of that because it was the same people who was addressing that last time, when talking about how everybody needs to redirect their energy to great institutions and democracy and all that. But now it was more of trade, business. So is it that the U.S. has come to a point that they've realized they're losing ground, they need to play catch up?
Yeah, in one of my stories, I actually said that there's been mention of governance here and there, but it's unlikely to be one of the big resolutions coming out of the meeting. And that was really because one incident there for me exemplified that contradiction, that outside there were these guys who were protesting against dictatorship and harassment of the press and everything in Ethiopia, and inside John Kerry was meeting the Ethiopian Prime Minister, and congratulating him for playing a big role in securing peace in the Horn of Africa and things like that. So I mean, there was a lot of doublespeak to that extent. And of course, as you were mentioning there is an economic reality, I think, to it that I think even our president was talking about. I heard him there like, oh yeah, the U.S. has finally realized that.
Woken up.
Yeah, and I think that is the kind of thinking that was going on even there, because the Chinese don't ask too many questions about which kind of government, what. I mean, they'll ask questions that are very specific to what they want, but it has nothing to do with governance and all of these things. And and it's unfortunate, but it looks to me like the U.S. is finally playing that economic card almost I think at the expense of everything else, everything else irregardless, as they say. And so for me, I saw very interesting things there. I mean, you should have seen all the presidents, the pictures we talk about. Yes. I mean, the so-called White House dinner, where all of these guys, all of them, all 45 or something of them, were lining up. So the only thing you would do is to come like this, then you turn, then you wave and then
pictures,
you go in. You come? And it was like the ritual that was repeated for so many minutes. All of them, the ones who had their spouses or whatever, that sort of thing. So they actually just go and
there's the president wave, go in
like that. And it went on and on and on.
For about an hour.
Yeah, and for some reason it looked like it was a big issue for these guys. But think about it. I mean, these guys never said anything throughout that. I mean, they would have meetings on the side here and there, but it wasn't really a meeting that was equal. I think that Obama just came and gave his speeches every day, and but at the end of the day, I'm not too sure. I mean, how much came out of it?
Interaction and getting to discuss.
Yeah, I would ask, when Kenyatta went there, what was our objective, as a country, as in what would we have wanted to gain, from it? And I find that, at least in the coverage of it, a lot of it is subdued by the whole conversation of we're now back in the good books with the U.S., this is a fight between U.S. and China and stuff, as if we don't have our own particular interests and don't find that these were articulated. What were these guys actually going there to do? What was their goal when they got there? Was it simply to have a nice picture with Obama? When they were having those bilateral meetings, whether with John Kerry, I know he went with a bunch of CSs. What were those CSs doing? Who were they meeting? What was agreed? Those are the sort of things I would have hoped for us would form the cracks of our coverage of this, because that is what informs. The other thing is, I think it was a very big PR coup for the guys in State House, because to all intents and impressions, they made it seem as if it was just Kenyatta going. And all the other guys surrounding it are somehow blurred into the background. All the other presidents, the fact that it's pretty much every country that went there except three. One final thing, Clay. I also think this was sort of, there's a big change in the discussion, in the narrative, from the whole turning east, US no longer matters. When you've got these 50 countries simply essentially being summoned and they turn up, when you've got 50 presidents or 45 presidents lining up to take a picture with Obama, it says something about where the power actually lies. You don't see these sort of pictures coming out of Beijing when they had their summit. So actually, I think those are the three.
Actually, that sometimes like this idea of I know the pictures with President Obama.
Big deal.
Kenya had their own, Uganda had their Museveni, Burundi had their, all these countries had it. And one thing I still don't buy is this idea that it's like the US is genuflecting. It is actually the African presidents who are genuflecting.
Yeah, precisely.
Because the question that we never asked in some of the business people who went from Kenya is that when Obama came to Tanzania, and I've been wanting people to answer this, there's so many Kenyan political analysts and strategists and lawyers who actually said that Obama means nothing to Africa. Obama's visit means nothing in Tanzania and all that. And some businessmen actually were saying they won't go. Then I'm wondering, it was probably cheaper for them to go to Tanzania than actually now start trooping to go to the US and actually show that they're the ones who are genuflecting. Then when it comes to China, US, I still don't think that Africa, US, or Africa holds a lot of leverage when it comes to China, US, because China and US, China still conducts more trade with the US than it conducts with the whole of Africa combined. China owes you, China buys US debt because so that it can give US cheaper credit to buy its goods. The biggest market for the Chinese goods is actually the US. It's not Africa. You see, so all these things, I still don't think that there's so much to see into this, because if anything, Obama is a lame duck president. What is he going to? Yeah, he's a lame duck president, because right now, what is he going to gain out of this? It's not anything that actually they're trying to leverage anything.
It's a legacy issue. I think that is there. I mean, Obama has been seen over the years that he's been president as having been rather half-hearted about Africa. I mean, he comes here and there while we're in tour of six countries and
that's
everything.
Very true.
And I think you should have seen how they were making a big deal about it in the US. Like, it has never happened. I mean, I had one congresswoman.
Yes, it has never happened because this guy, the chief someone.
History of the US, there's no president who has ever brought this many presidents in the capital. And so there's a way in which they were looking at it as a big thing for the Obama administration. And I think because there was a huge expectation on him to do something dramatic in Africa for his 8 years in office, which I don't think he has. But then they wanted, I think, for him to have this final kick, so to speak.
That's good enough. That's good enough.
So that's there. But to be fair, I think there were things that were happening on the side. I mean, I saw the cabinet secretary, spoke to some of them, and they were saying that there were all these deals that they were striking on the side. There were a lot of business people who said they made contacts and everything. I mean, I have no way of
confirming,
quantifying whatever happened. But to the extent that it sent the signal at the political level that it is okay to deal with people in the US and the other way around. Maybe that's what they can talk about, because I think the rhetoric that we saw about we can't go to Tanzania was because of the political signals that had been sent before that. Like if you were to go there, then you would have been seen as someone
being disloyal
to the president. I mean, let's face it. So because the president went there and got his picture taken with Obama and Michelle, then now it sends the signal that it is okay now to do something.
It's this rhetoric actually that actually I needed to question, because every time we talk about like, oh, we are looking east, then all of a sudden the West just makes a call and then everybody runs there. I think this is one thing we have to realize, that we are not still looking east as that much. We are actually looking east and kneeling towards the West. We have to admit
Well,
that. This idea of looking
I would
But
still
was
go-
looking east the media's
No,
is it
that
the media
is-
that
I mean,
came up with
because
that?
you
Because
should
the
have-
government,
Shall we beat the
the
drum?
CS,
Let's
the
beat
no,
that
let's-
drum.
CS has
No,
always
guys,
maintained that
let's
look whatever business
let's
is.
face it, that actually there is a new frontier in Africa in terms of doing business. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Everything else out there is almost exhausted. Africa is a place where a lot of business can be done. If you invest your money here, you can get 6%, 7%,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, out there, it is very little. So what does that mean? That means that these guys know what they want here. So it is our business to know what we want. I mean, the Chinese will come here and get whatever they want.
Especially
but-
the ivory.
Yeah, but as long as we... I didn't say that, you did. But for as long as we don't know what we want...
But that's my point.
Yeah.
Is
So
when
need
we
to
go for
define-
this summit,
we need to define, more like...
where our interests.
I'm going to get in trouble
you know.
here, but it's more like... it's more like, I remember, in the village, when you had this girl who was like in the middle of all these two
The hot
guys.
one.
Like, yeah, exactly. So she could afford to play hard to get and find her way around because there were two men all vying for her attention. But and I think that there's a sense in which a lot of people are vying for the attention of Africa right now. If we don't know what we want, I mean, these guys will just run.
But who says we don't know what we want is oscillating between the two.
But we don't
We
articulate
don't know
it.
what we want.
We don't.
But we're doing business with whoever is going to come our
I
way.
think it's
What
good.
business?
There's no problem.
What business?
I mean, like, let me just give
No,
you an
no, no.
example.
To be honest,
Whatever business.
What business under what
Just
terms?
give you an example. Last
There's
year, I
business
think,
to business in
last year,
China.
Germany exported more coffee
coffee,
than
yeah.
the whole of Africa. They don't have a single coffee plant.
Yeah.
So what business are we doing with China? I'm very sure probably
Government to
China.
government.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
We are doing business. Just like what kind
I think
and
also,
under what
we
terms?
need to open our eyes and actually accept, because first of all, just on a personal level, we make so much noise about, we'll get this from China, we'll get this from China. But actually we still send our children to the US. We would sell our mothers to get a US visa. We would. Half of those people went, they would do that. So I think we need to accept that actually, yes, we're dealing with these guys, we're getting all these grants from them, but these things are not for free. And also we have to accept another thing, that in the US, all politics is local. So we might make all this noise and we went to the US, Obama has accepted us, the US has accepted us, but we still have to admit that for them, all politics is local. For us, we want to look good, how we are seen out there, but for them, it's still, how am I seen here? One thing that our leadership don't actually consider. We don't consider how good I am at home. It's like how good I am to the West, how good I am to the Chinese. So I think these are some of the things that we need to accept.
I think, Clay, that we need to focus, and I think it's what Joe has just said. We need to be sure what we're playing for. What is it we want? When these guys go on these summits, it's more than just about the politics or the political signal and acceptance. They do cut real deals, and they do go and have real negotiations. What we need to know is what the substance of that is, and what is the goal when we are going. What do we want when we meet them? And that has to be the subject of a discussion within the country that pushes this agenda that says, well, actually, if you're going to meet China, this is what we want out of China. These are the things that are important to us. So, for example, the whole discussion of ivory, poaching, and the demand that's driving all of that has got to be part of an engagement.
And the 5,000 was supposed to come in.
All right.
I mean, when you mention government-to-government interaction, as if once they have decided, then the rest of us, our job is simply to fall in line and beat that drum. I mean, that to me is an abdication of what we should be doing. We need to be interrogating the whys. They tell us we need SGR. Well, Bank says you don't actually need it. What is the logic of this? If we're bringing in 5,000 of them to work here, why? And let us question and push that, and that becomes part of the national conversation that helps us articulate these are our national priorities as a country. These are not discussions that should be let them happen in parliament or in government forum. They should be heard by Kenyans in the places that they sit.
What was the U.S. media saying about the summit going on?
They talked more about Ebola, I think.
Oh yeah, there's that as well that was happening.
Yeah, but I think also they were just going on and on about how historic it was. I mean, there was very little in terms of the substance of what was going on. It was more about the historic nature of this thing, that there had never been that many presidents in the capital, and also alluding a little bit to the Chinese dimension, that there is a lot of Chinese focus in Africa, and that this could be some sort of reaction from the U.S. government. But I must admit that the Ebola thing actually took most of the.
And actually, one other thing, just to add very quickly, is U.S. trade with Africa as a whole has actually been falling, not rising. So it's our relative importance to them there. Is not that big.
I didn't watch. I've not gotten any clips from Fox yet. Yeah. But probably, Fox, even the Ebola, probably they'll blame Obama for it.
No, actually, there was a lot of, Donald Trump was very upset that they actually took the doctors from Africa back to the US.
Or Fox.
Because they were saying that, in fact, there were it was unbelievable, because there were all these people who were tweeting and calling in on some of the radio stations and saying that those doctors are being very selfish. How could they go to Africa where they knew there was this outbreak, and then they would go back, and with this possibility that it could spread to some people in the US, that then some guys said, Donald Trump actually said they should have stayed in Africa, that whatever methods they were trying to use to manage it, they should have done it there.
But all the Americans, actually, the more or less like this thing they've been calling the secret serum. Actually, it so happens, my brother was telling me this last night, because I did not watch news. It so happens that actually they have a cure for it. They're actually managing it. Nobody has died in the US, according to...
Let's talk a bit about that, Ebola, because the other day there was a scare with a passenger who came in Nairobi at the JKIA. It was food poisoning, though. But in terms of us, questioning and looking at our preparedness from the entry points to the hospitals, have we been able to question that? Have we been able to look at that?
Very good. I mean, KQ is still flying to this capital.
Yes.
Now, Ebola takes up to between 2 days and 3 weeks to actually manifest symptoms. A guy can come through JKIA looking very okay, and then 2 weeks later turns up dead of Ebola somewhere else. We should be asking, and there was a report that was in the Nation, I think either on Friday or Thursday, if I'm not wrong, about these guys who boarded a plane in Accra that had come from Freetown, a KQ flight. That come from Freetown, and they asked the crew whether the people who are in that plane from Freetown had been screened, and the crew said, well, actually, when guys are leaving their countries, they don't need to be screened. These are real issues. If we are putting profit ahead of safety, these are things we need to question. The idea, I find that countries in West Africa are declaring states of emergency, and here we are behaving as if all is fine.
Because even the nature of screening that's taking place at JKIA is coming into question, in as far as, you go there and you're asked, have you been having these symptoms? And the people are not even wearing any protective gear. The contact in itself is questionable. So those kind of loopholes that are already being seen to be left by the authorities.
Yeah, for me, is at least the level of a guy passing through JKIA not showing symptoms. We have to understand there is the incubation period. If that guy can very well pass, and then it goes and becomes infectious somewhere else. So we really need to be at a point where we are taking it seriously.
Right. Okay.
I think what happens is that the way probably this thing is being handled, no gloves, no safety gloves and stuff like that, it speaks volumes about the way we actually treat safety issues, be it health, be it industrial and all that. It speaks a lot, it says a lot, because there was a time, I think there was an Ebola outbreak in Uganda some years back. And we probably should, that's a time we should have learned from that and maybe strengthened our defense mechanisms or all this screening. So if at all, again, this thing happens in West Africa, we should have actually had the kind of equipment in place. It should not have come like now again we are scrambling and trying to get, right now we're being told, oh, we don't have gloves for this. Our airports and all these ports of entry should have actually had this thing has happened in our neighborhood.
Why are we not telling that story?
Let's be prepared for it. Let's be prepared for it. And I think it speaks. We get back to one thing. There's one thing that actually happens, and I'm going to talk about the newsroom print specialization when it comes to matters health. From where I sit, actually, I know 2 health journalists. Right now, they're out of town. People who write on matters health. So there is nobody else to cover for them. So you find that actually there's also lack, let me call it lack of resources. So whereby we tend to put too much emphasis on things politics.
I think it's a reordering rather of priorities, and Gadara would like to hear this. I'm sure he will say we should go to Sierra Leone or something. Should send people there. Yeah, but I think you're right. I mean, when I saw, for example, I visited the hospital where this guy's well, I didn't go in, so please don't. Yeah, you can not anywhere near. But what struck me is that the guy, you know, in the US now, almost every network has a doctor who's a journalist, because medical and health issues have become so big. Yeah. Not has become, actually they have put the emphasis, I think, on them, because even here, I mean, those are big issues here. Sure. We have bigger health problems, I think, than those guys have, even in terms of just access to healthcare and understanding the diseases and how they affect people and all that. So they actually have, like Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who reports for CNN, the guy, I mean, is a brain surgeon, but then he's also a journalist, and he was literally camping there every day, like giving updates. Oh yeah, so how is this going to play out? How are they responding to this? Like they kept it up there, and people, I think, were listening to what they were saying. So there is a need, I think, on our side of the globe, to also begin to put emphasis on the right things, and I think that there is too much politics in what we do, yet there are many other issues that are
just to correct one thing that Clay said, they don't have a cure for Ebola. They've got a serum that's untested.
They can manage it. Let me put
so
it
they're actually one of the people, and this the priest who was in Spain, who was taken to Spain, actually died, although he was on that. So we have to be careful. Yeah, and now the WHO has approved it to be taken to guys in Liberia, I believe. You know, but there's very little of it. You know, so
I mean, they're saying even if they discovered it works, there won't be enough for it.
Yeah, there's not even, there are very few doses that are
on the
actually
positive
available.
side, this Ebola is from Africa. Yeah? At least Africa has given the world something. Yeah.
Goodness, Clay. Really? Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. At least we've gone through the discussion without talking politics much, right? Referendum.
Well,
because many people say, oh, there's still too much politicking. So thank you for joining us, and welcome back from the Nazis. So
an accent? Your way of welcoming me back is to
baptism by fire.
To wake me up at 5.
Yes, back on course.
Yeah, it's great to be back, actually. Yeah? No accent.
No accent. Don't worry.
I missed it. I mean, sometimes we get this accent just by going to the Forex Bureau.
Or passing to the airspace.
Yeah, just by going to exchange dollars.
Said that, why don't they get Indian accents when they go
I know. They kind of got well, how is an Indian accent? How does it go?
Oh,
can you
just like that only?
Just like that?
We are like that.
Why do you want to know?
Because we are like that only.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great day, and we'll see you after this short break. I have a lovely lady with me in studio, and we're talking to her about remarrying. Yes, are you one of those people no longer married, divorced, spouse died, and you'd want to be married again? We'll talk about that. Don't go away.